It doesn't begin with betrayal. It begins with silence, the kind that seeps into ordinary moments until even laughter sounds rehearsed. There's a stage in every relationship that looks perfectly stable from the outside. Dinners are cooked, alarms are set, birthdays remembered. But internally, something sacred has died. It isn't passion, it's meaning. Psychologists call it hedonic adaptation, the brain's quiet rebellion against comfort. What once thrilled becomes background noise. What once symbolized love becomes maintenance. The couple that once shared secrets now shares logistics. Did you feed the dog replaces, what are you thinking? At first, this erosion is invisible. The mind confuses routine for connection, structure for safety. But slowly, repetition turns intimacy into performance. You still kiss goodnight, but it's ritual, not desire. You still say, love you, but it lands without echo. The tragedy of this stage is its subtlety. No storm, no fight. Just a calm so perfect it feels sterile. The soul starves in comfort. A woman stands in her kitchen, stirring her tea. Her husband passes behind her, phone in hand. They exchange a polite smile, the same one they've worn for years. She feels a small flicker of something. Not anger, not sadness, emptiness. It's the moment you realize your home has become a museum of old emotions. Philosophically, this is the collapse of shared myth. Every relationship begins with a narrative, two people building a symbolic world, us. Over time, that myth must evolve, or it decays. When partners stop updating the story, they unconsciously start editing each other out of it. Meaning dies when language loses its edge. When words no longer create reality, but merely describe its ruins. There's a cruel irony here. The quieter the erosion, the harder it is to name. Most couples don't end because they hate each other. They end because they become indifferent. Indifference is not coldness. It's exhaustion. The psychic fatigue of pretending that fine is good enough. When you reach this point, even small joys feel foreign. You laugh at a movie, and instead of sharing the laughter, you notice that you're laughing alone. That's the first symptom of the silent divorce. The private awareness that connection has become memory. Rule card. Love doesn't die in conflict. It dies in repetition. When we becomes maintenance. The erosion of meaning doesn't announce itself. It just rearranges the atmosphere until every conversation feels slightly delayed, like speaking through glass. And in that quiet suffocation, one question begins to haunt the room. If love can fade without a single fight, what does that say about the mind that once created it? Sometimes the worst kind of loneliness is when the person causing it is sitting right beside you. There's a moment when togetherness becomes performance. Two people share a space, a bed, a name, but their inner worlds no longer overlap. The house is still full of sound, dishes clinking, notifications buzzing, words exchanged. But the emotional signal, the invisible current that once connected them, is gone. Psychologists call this emotional withdrawal, the defense mechanism of the quietly hopeless. It's not about absence, it's about disengagement. You stop fighting because it's pointless. You stop explaining because explanations no longer land. You conserve your emotional energy, the way the body conserves heat when it knows it's freezing. In attachment theory, this is the dance between avoidance and anxiety. One partner withdraws to protect their ego. The other pursues, desperate for connection. The more one retreats, the more the other chases, until both collapse in exhaustion. The anxious feels unseen. The avoidant feels suffocated. Neither realizes they're mirroring the same wound. Fear of abandonment disguised as control. It's 11:47 p.m. She scrolls through social media, staring at images of other couples, smiling, touching, alive. He lies beside her, pretending to sleep, headphones in, volume low. Their bodies touch, but their realities don't. In another life, they would have spoken. In this one, silence feels safer. The paradox of presence is that proximity amplifies absence. When someone withdraws emotionally, their body becomes a reminder of what's missing. You see them every day, and that visibility becomes torture. You crave a text they'll never send, a tone they've forgotten how to use. This is where intermittent reinforcement takes over. A brief smile, a soft gesture, a nostalgic touch. Tiny doses of affection that keep hope alive. The brain interprets these fragments as promise. It clings, waiting for the next rare moment of warmth. That's how people stay in dying relationships, addicted to rare relief. Withdrawal doesn't destroy connection outright. It corrodes it slowly, through selective attention. You start editing your reality, focusing only on the fragments that confirm your pain or justify your distance. Every conversation becomes data for the narrative you're building. See, they don't care. See, I was right to stop trying. It's not manipulation, it's self-preservation through meaning control. Over time, this becomes the new emotional equilibrium. Low conflict, low intimacy, high tolerance for emptiness. It feels peaceful, but it's really psychic numbness, the mind's anesthesia against deeper loss. You can't resurrect a connection by standing closer to its ghost. Emotional withdrawal marks the halfway point of the silent divorce. The body stays, the soul starts packing. But what fills the void left behind? That's when the shadow begins its work, quietly, invisibly, rewriting the story of who's to blame. When the warmth dies, the psyche doesn't just grieve, it recruits the dark. Every relationship carries two stories, the one we tell out loud and the one our unconscious writes in secret. When emotional connection collapses, that second story takes over. This is where the shadow, Jung's term for the disowned parts of the self, begins to surface. The traits we can't face within ourselves are quietly projected onto the person closest to us. What we once loved in them becomes what we can no longer tolerate. Their silence feels like judgment. Their independence feels like rejection. Their fatigue feels like betrayal. The irony? Those qualities often mirror what we've repressed. Your partner's detachment may only echo your own. Psychologically, projection is a defense against fragmentation. When the relationship begins to rot, the ego looks for a culprit. The psyche cannot tolerate chaos. It must assign cause and blame. So it weaponizes perception. You stop seeing your partner as a person and start seeing them as a symbol of your unprocessed pain. The inner monologue shifts. She's cold. He's selfish. She doesn't care. Each accusation acts as a mirror covered in fog. You see a shape, but not yourself. He stares at her across the living room, watching her scroll her phone. Something tightens in his chest. Anger, but also recognition. It's not just her disinterest that hurts him. It's that she has learned to do what he's done for years, detach. But instead of admitting that, he calls her distant, uncaring, manipulative. He has mistaken his reflection for her face. This is the shadow's work, self-avoidance disguised as moral clarity. Philosophically, Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. In a decaying relationship, this quote becomes prophecy. The fight isn't about dishes or texts or attention. It's about the unspoken fear that you are no longer lovable in the ways you once were. Instead of confronting that abyss, you turn your partner into the villain that protects you from self-blame. Over time, this projection hardens into a narrative, a private mythology of betrayal. You start telling yourself that you're the one who tried, that you've evolved, and they've regressed. It feels empowering at first, a clean moral distinction between you and them. But it's counterfeit power, because the moment you dehumanize your partner, you amputate part of your own psyche. The bond between souls breaks not at the point of anger, but at the loss of empathy. The shadow doesn't destroy love. It replaces it with certainty. When projection becomes permanent, the couple stops fighting for understanding and starts fighting for narrative control. That's when the relationship mutates again, into something colder, quieter, more strategic. Two people, each defending their version of reality. Two truths, incompatible but equally believed. And that's the birth of the next phase, the age of parallel lives.